Hello there, my fellow YouTubians. This is HYNMY here, and I will be today talking about the relevance of Venus-DeMilo, or the Forgotten Turtle, in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fandom, as requested by Millen21, who this speed paint of my Chompy AU is for. So, a lot of people in the fandom surprisingly hate Miss Venus-DeMilo. And it's not that good of a reason. You see, in the original show she is featured in, The Next Mutation, she is actually not that dislikable. A lot of people say that she plays the victim card too much, well, or she's defenseless. She is easily able to take out her brothers, yet in the show she occasionally does get kidnapped. And one of the funny things is Venus is a very unique character. A lot of people have a big problem with the chest. I know this because I actually have my own Venus-DeMilo AU, and when she has a chest, you get a lot of backlash because turtles don't have boobs. But you also have to remember, in a lot of at least in the 2012 incarnation, they are actually half human. Now, I will be discussing turtle mutation and just general mutation in the 2012 verse on a completely different video, because it isn't that complex compared to most of the other forms of mutation, and it's an interesting subject to cover. So back to topic. So in the original The Next Mutation series, Venus-DeMilo, or Mei-Pei-Chi, comes from Japan. Her master, he found her in Chinatown in New York after she was separated from the turtles after she was mutated. She basically got a she basically got swept away in the current of the rain into a drainage ditch or something in Chinatown. And so he found her there and brought her back to Japan or China. I'm not entirely sure. I believe it is Japan because she refers to herself as a shinobi, which it's kind of funny because the writers of The Next Mutation did not do much research on Japanese culture, because the turtles will constantly say, "Are you a ninja too?" Or "We're ninjas," and she's just over here like, "I am shinobi." And so what's funny is what a shinobi actually is a master ninja. So either A, you have Venus who's getting pissy because her brothers are degrading her by calling her just a standard ninja, or you have the possibility they didn't know what she was, because they sometimes use the term shinobi and shaman interchangeably, which they are not interchangeable. And it's very interesting because in the show she has a lot of knowledge on Japanese and Chinese medicine, and black market medicine as well. Not only this, but she has a strong connection to chi, the universe energy that can be channeled through different chi points on the body. And she's been shown to be able to, from what I've seen in the show so far, is she can make herself invisible, she can shoot these energy blasts, and she can manipulate, she can pretty much dimension travel to another plane of existence. What's interesting is, the way she gets her brothers to dimension travel with her is, they're fighting, and they're just training. And before, of course, they would never slip into this dimensional plane, but she unlocks the ability to allow them to, so they can save Master Splinter. And she's a very interesting character. So she has a lot of potential, but she wasn't written the best way. And And one of my favorite things about her is she is hilarious, okay? She constantly refers to the sewer as the toilet, so they'll be like, come on, let's go back to the sewers. And she's like, yes, take me to your toilet. and it was so funny because I think it was Mikey. He goes, actually, no, it's called the sewers. And she's like, is there a difference? And he just kind of looks at her and goes, you're kind of right there. It was actually really funny. The reason a lot of people hate the show so much is because, one, it was produced by the people who made Power Rangers. The writing could have been great. The actual show could have been incredible, but the show is filled with wonky camera angles, constant dizzying movements, and awkward cutaways. I remember there was a scene where Venus is fighting some foot soldiers in a park. And by watching the scene, I assumed there was like 7 or 10, but she's like, there were only 4 of them. And at the end of the scene, I'm like, wait, what? But like, I could have sworn. It's just the way they execute the motions and such, and the transitions makes the show rather confusing. The theme is cringe-inducing. So whenever I watch the show, I have to skip the theme entirely. The puppet rigging, well, the suits that they wear, they are not that bad, but the eye holes in the suits are very noticeable, and they don't have as much facial range as they could. But we also have to excuse, this was the same people who made the Power Rangers series, so they did have very limited financial and experiential abilities and resources. So, okay, now on to my version of Venus. So in my alliteration of Venus, it takes place in the 2012 verse, mostly. Venus was raised by the Shredder to basically, in this verse, the Shredder went to, at one point he overheard Tang Shen speaking about going to New York, and so when she died, he wanted to raise her daughter there. And I've talked about the gray turtle with this, and he believes that she also moved there because in Japan, the wife would have to give up everything once she had her children. And so in a twisted way, Shredder actually loved his daughter by bringing her to America so she could fully be the leader of the Foot instead of just becoming a Japanese wife. And so basically in my verse, he comes to Japan, and what causes the problem with the mutagen is a combination of both the Foot meeting Splinter along with the Krang. So there is somewhat of a three-way fight. The Krang are easily taken out by the Foot, and then the Foot is just left with Hamato Yoshi, or Splinter, before he was mutated. And so they get in a fight, and the accident happens, and in all the chaos and confusion, Splinter ends up leaving behind one of the turtles because he couldn't find her, because she fell into a little can, and she's trapped inside this can. So basically, Splinter goes to the sewers, finds a safe place for them, and by the time he can come back to look for her, the Foot has actually already taken her back to Shredder, and Shredder is told everything, all the details about how Splinter was mutated and everything. And so what happens is Shredder goes, okay, I've got an idea. How about I give him a taste of his own medicine? How about I use one of his turtles against him where it would hit him and the turtles hardest? So what he does is he raises her to be a killer, under the impression she is his beloved daughter, alongside Karai, or as we know her, Miwa. And so basically she comes into this, and so Shredder still hates mutants, but he needs her to believe that everything he's doing it for her. He's doing this because he loves her. He doesn't actually love her. He kind of like hates her because she's a mutant. And her origin was from Hamato Yoshi. So basically, by the end of this, she grows up thinking she's an absolute monster. And her only purpose in life is to restore honor to the Oroku name, which has been tainted by the Hamatos, from 1, abandoning her, and 2, killing the second in command of what would be the Oroku clan, Tang Shen. But she is not aware that Tang Shen is Shredder's beloved. In fact, in my verse, because in the next mutation, she is very connected to the spiritual world and chi, I decided, well, why not incorporate this into the AU and have her highly connected to Tang Shen, because there's no way a small child who Shredder hated would be able to survive those years without some help. So she's kind of got Tang Shen and Tiger Claw on her side, because Tiger Claw pretty much raised her, then the spirit of Tang Shen guided her along her pathways and stuff, and they chat a lot. and it makes for an interesting dynamic when she does meet the turtles, because they kind of bring her this new knowledge, but she refuses to believe them because she's been raised to believe that Splinter is just this liar, this deceptionist, this ruthless killer who left her for dead on purpose. And so it's kind of funny because her brothers kind of come around and they're like, no, that's not what happened. And so she's like, liars, blasphemers, ruthless peoples. And it's kind of funny because as time goes on, she keeps coming back with more and more scars. And one of the things with my Venus is she's not some pretty little thing. She is a giant scar-covered turtle. She, with like, one of the things I have in this AU is, in the mutated world, they heavily referenced, hey, they're not actually related to each other, any of them. Not even Mikey and Raph and Donnie and Leo, and especially not Venus. Which was interesting because in a pet store, you have a small chance of getting turtles from the same breeding pair, but chances are you're not gonna, depending on whatever plans may change, whatever suppliers may change and such. So it somewhat makes sense that they would not be related in any way. So for my AU, you also have these 4 kids coming in on like a special kids school field trip or something. They come into the pet store and like the teacher or mom, I haven't decided yet, is sitting here like showing them all the pets. And at this time, Hamato Yoshi is still human. This is when he first meets the baby turtles. Each of these kids is like playing with a turtle, but they're not being the gentlest. So he's like kind of like, okay, how about we try this instead? And he takes out the last turtle, Venus, and he's like talking about them, and he sits there and he makes up this little story where these kids personify the turtles based on themselves. And what's ironic is in the story is the turtles end up much like the person who touched them and the one who made the self-insert story about the turtle, including Venus, which ties in with the AU because Venus is a lot like Hamato Yoshi. Hamato Yoshi was very revenge-born for many years, but he found clarity through these turtles and Tang Shen. However, with Venus, without the turtles or Tang Shen, well, she had Tang Shen, but not in the same light as the boys did. Tang Shen is more like a guide to her, but she doesn't really go talking about her past. And so what happens is, so she finally does meet the turtles and they duke it out, and depending on the AU or the roleplay, either one, she fails too many times because she keeps hesitating, because no matter how hard she tries, she just can't kill her brothers because she still remembers them. And so in the pet shop, she took care of them when they were all in the same tank together. So she's kind of got that familial bond that keeps her from actually killing them. So what happens is either A, Shredder gets sick of it and basically hurts her to an extreme degree, or B, one that happens a lot more than the others, Leo accidentally cuts her shell. And what's interesting is Venus has a much more human anatomy than the boys do. She has pronounced facial features. She has bodily hair like eyebrows and eyelashes and such. And she has lips. She does not have a beak like the turtles do. And this is because all the turtles were touched by children, so they didn't get as much. The children weren't fully humans yet. They weren't fully adults. However, Hamato Yoshi was fully adult or fully human, so Venus got more human DNA. It may sound a little confusing, but this is what I decided to go with in my AU for her having slightly more human anatomy than the boys, which also derives to her shell. In my AU, her shell is actually small. It's rather small, it's soft, it's bendable, and it's skin covered. Her spine is not actually attached to her shell. Her spine is where a normal human spine would be. However, the top rim of her shell does connect to her spine on around her neck, giving her somewhat of a stiff neck, and she can't fully pull her head in her shell because of this. And so what's interesting is she has she's very big. She's actually 7'2" in the AU, which compares to Donnie, who is 6'4", Leo, who is 5'3", Raph, who is 5 foot, and then Mikey, who is 4'9", I believe. I may have gotten Donnie's height wrong. It's been a while, but so she's very big compared to these turtles, and she wields these two killer axes. So that makes for a very interesting battle, and it's kind of ironic because she is a better fighter than them because they were trained from a certain point, but she was trained from the very beginning. But she also has a huge disadvantage because, however, she is strong and muscular, she is skinny, underfed, scarred, and generally abused. So she has a lot of insecurities, and touch her the wrong way, and it's very bad on her end. And so it's interesting because you have this universe where Venus knows absolutely nothing, also tying back to her roots of knowing nothing about anything really. So Venus knows almost nothing about anything. She cannot read, she cannot write, she's got terrible vision. Like terrible vision. I actually have an online image posted to show people how bad her vision is even with glasses. And so, and it's interesting because one way or another she normally ends up on the turtle side, or in some unfortunate roleplays she has ended up kind of like dead because she didn't convert over. But yeah, so that's kind of my overview of Venus-DeMilo and my AU of Venus, Oroku-Venus-DeMilo. Thank you for watching. I'm sorry, this is shorter than my normal videos on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because this is supposed to be a speed paint, but it's venturing into a long paint. Thank you very much, and feel free to check out my Tumblr, HYNMY-TMNT, or HYNMY-TMNT.tumblr.com for my art, or any of my AUs. All of these will be located in the description below. And thank you so much for joining me, and Millen, I hope you love the picture. Thank you. Bye!